southeast of San Jose, off the I-5 border, in between San Francisco and Los Angeles. And Memorial Los Banos is a Sutter System hospital that's recently been staffed by CEP, starting just a couple of years ago with Joe Chang as the medical director. When Joe got there, he's a fresh, new medical director, hadn't been a medical director anywhere else. He recently graduated from the fellow program. And he realized, oh my God, I really got to focus on patient satisfaction. I mean, what would you do if you showed up as a medical director and realized your patient satisfaction is second percentile? He knew that well, I guess, again, the good news is you can't get a whole lot worse. Like this light bulb went up and he figured, you know what, this is only going to get better, and it's just a matter of how hard and how fast do I want to work to make it happen. And the answer was he wanted to work hard and fast, and he partnered with an excellent nurse manager, Jennifer Nunes. By collaboration and leadership, they were able to get their patient satisfaction up to the 60th to 80th percentile routinely now in the emergency department. So a lot of strong work between the two of them. This is Joe and Jennifer. They've really collaborated to bring the physicians, the PAs, the nurse practitioners, and the nursing staff together and really focus on what's important to them. They got that patient satisfaction up by engaging the staff, by bringing Jay Kaplan to talk at their site, by focusing on AIDIT, having this rollout night for AIDIT. I guess they had an AIDIT bingo night, by starting physician callbacks, PA callbacks, kind of the standard formula that a lot of CEP sites do, and they've done it extremely successfully here. I think it shows a lot of collaboration between the physicians and the nurses that they're able to achieve that. And I want to talk for a minute about this American flag. There's a good story behind it, but before I do, I want to get to throughput real quick, because I think this is also impressive what they were able to do with their throughput. Joe and Jennifer knew that they really had to improve their throughput, and they did. They were able to get their time to provided, which previously had been more than an hour, now down to less than half an hour. They did this by implementing RME, this innovative concept that CEP had of RME. They put it in place, and just like so many other CEP sites, they've really seen results from that. They started focusing on team care. They fired up the team care engine and have seen their turnaround time to discharge drop by an hour, actually more than an hour. The data I was just looking at showed a turnaround time to discharge now of 116 minutes year to date. So really impressive results on their turnaround time to discharge. They've really nailed it with all the metrics, time to provider, turnaround time to discharge, and they're also decreasing their turnaround time to admin. Joe was telling me, and I was just amazed by this, they're able to get more than 70% of their patients upstairs within an hour after they admit the patient. So it's more than 70% of their patients board in the ED for less than an hour. Really impressive results that they're able to do that. And then one of the big reasons that Joe credits this improvement in turnaround time to admission is the fact that they've integrated with the hospitalist service. Sutter at Memorial Los Banos was so impressed with the work that the ED was doing that they also wanted the hospitalist group to be staffed with CEP hospitalists. And as a result of that integration, they've really been able to achieve some significant results. Kian Kave, the medical director of the hospitalist group there, was really tasked with improving inpatient experience. And he did that with a lot of innovation. He took this concept of team discharge, which had been working so successfully in the emergency department. He took it upstairs to the hospitalist team, and he tells me that whenever he's in trying to discharge a patient, trying to discharge an inpatient, he'll try to get a case manager and a nurse in there at the same time so they can do a team discharge to make sure the patient understands aftercare instructions, make sure the patient's going to a safe environment, make sure that the patient really gets what happened to them in the hospitalization and what needs to happen after they go home. And it's a result of this collaboration between the hospitalist group and the nursing group and the case managers, and between the ED group and the hospitalist team, that they're able to see as inpatients an impressive decrease in their mortality, an increase in their core measures, and a decrease in their length of stay. Really strong work on the part of the hospital team that they're able to achieve this. And as a result of that, Sutter actually recognized this hospital, out of all the Sutter sites, they recognized this hospital with the Sutter Presidential Award in 2013 for a lot of great work that they've done with their core measures. They were the hospital that, out of all the Sutter hospitals that got this award. So congratulations to Memorial Los Banos. About this flag here. It's a pretty impressive story. This flag flew 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. And the story actually starts in Los Angeles. About 10 years ago. It starts with me. I was an emergency medicine resident at a very dysfunctional county hospital. To this hospital's credit, they've done a lot of work and they've really changed things since when I was a resident. But when I was there, wait times in the waiting room were typically measured like in hours, even in days. I would see patients sometimes who had waited a day in the ER waiting room to come see me. And a young woman checked into our waiting room, checked into our emergency department about 10 years ago. And she was complaining of just feeling weak and dizzy, and the triage nurse saw her, did some vital signs. She seemed relatively stable, so she went and waited in the waiting room. And she waited and waited and waited for hours until she collapsed in the waiting room. And at that point, she was immediately rushed back to the resuscitation area, where I was a senior resident and I was charged with running this code. So we hooked her up to a monitor, realized that she was an asystole, started our standard ACLS protocols, and got the code up and running. In the middle of the code, her father came back. Her father had come in with her, and he came back and gave us this key detail that he and that both of them had been at the transplant service the day before, and they were concerned that perhaps she was rejecting a kidney. They were like, oh my God, we had no idea that she had a transplanted kidney. And it turns out that the surgeon who was associated with this same county hospital had drawn some labs as an outpatient the day before. Nobody had really followed up on them. We didn't really know what they were. So the intern rushed over, opened up her chart, pulled up her labs from the day before, and sure enough, her potassium was sky high. She was obviously dying because she was hyperkalemia. So immediately we'd already started the standard ACLS therapy. She got all the medications that were appropriate. We added in more medication for hyperkalemia. We worked on her for, what seemed forever with her father standing right there. And we were unsuccessful. She died because of an inefficient system. And I remember looking at her and looking at her father grieving and just realizing, I knew how to treat hyperkalemia. We had a great team of nurses there who knew how to treat coding patients, a great team of residents, great attendings. I mean, everybody in that room knew how to save this woman's life, but nobody could do it because we were in a system that had failed this patient. I want to fast forward 10 years to the I-5, to another young woman with a transplant who was driving down the I-5. She lived in Northern California. She was driving to Southern California to have a visit with her transplant surgeon. As her husband was driving, as they were going down the I-5, she started to feel weaker and weaker and weaker. And so they looked around. They probably thought they were in the middle of nowhere, but they weren't. They were in Los Banos, where there was an award-winning center facility waiting to receive them. They drove up to the emergency department. They took her in. She collapsed immediately and was recognized immediately to be critically ill. She was rushed into the emergency department, where a skilled team of highly trained professionals resuscitated her, stabilized her, and took this woman who basically died in the emergency department, saved her life, admitted her to the hospital, stabilized her in the hospital to the point that she'd be transferred down to her transplant center down in Los Angeles. She was further recovered at the transplant center in Los Angeles and was healthy enough to be discharged. And so they drove back up to their home in Northern California, and on the way up, they stopped by Memorial Los Banos, where her husband is a war veteran. He served in Afghanistan. He dropped off this flag with this note that reads, the two most prized things in my life are my wife and this flag. I'm not a rich man, but you've given me back my wife. I have my American flag, which flew 2 tours over Afghanistan. I want to give it to you to thank you for the work that you've done. Thank you so much. That's a story about how a team of skilled professionals came together to save one person's life. But it's really a story about something much bigger. It's a story about how a system that's been driven by the CEP engine of collaboration, of leadership, of innovation, and of integration created an environment where we could do the jobs that we've been trained to do. It's a system that I don't think we can take for granted. We often do, but I learned the hard way in residency that that's not something that we can just take for granted. Rick and I have talked a lot today in 8 different case studies about how the CEP engine has allowed us to meet challenges successfully. And we've proven that by talking about metrics, by talking about percentages and times and percentiles and left without being seen. But what those metrics really measure aren't time or left without being seen rates or patient satisfaction. What those metrics are really measuring when they're good is the gratitude of a husband whose wife has been returned to him. And when they're bad, they're measuring the grief of a father who just lost his daughter because the system was so inefficient that they couldn't serve them. I think these stories have illustrated what a strong culture we have and what a strong engine we have driving us forward. We're going to continue to face many challenges over the years to come, and Rick and I have no doubt that with collaboration, with innovation, with integration, and especially with leadership from CEP providers, we're going to meet those challenges successfully.